Hey everyone, this is Jono from Veracity with another video in my video series, this one on assessments, quizzes, and other interactions. And really what we're talking about here is how do you properly encode these in xAPI so that you get good results in your reports and analytics. You'll see me refer to this as cmi.interactions. cmi.interaction is a specific type of thing, activity in the xAPI. This terminology is kind of a leftover from SCORM. It came from SCORM over to the xAPI, and really what it is it's a user's interaction with a question, and that could be a multiple choice question or a fill-in question or a numeric question or something more complex like a performance or sequencing question. So there are different CMI interaction subtypes, and the response that a learner gives is different for the different question types. So if it's a true or false question, obviously the answers that you get are true and false, and the correct answer is either true or false. But if it's a multiple choice question, you might get, A, B, C, or D, and C is the right answer, or C and D are the right answer. So you get the idea. There's these different types. They have different subtypes. And what I think we're going to end up doing is, I've been going a little long on these videos, so when I started thinking about this one and everything that could go into it, looking at the different responses, looking at the different ways to encode a correct response, and then how you visualize this and use it in reports, it would be a pretty long video. So we're going to do a series. It might correspond to these bullets, it might not. We'll just see how long things go. Today, we're going to do kind of an overview of CMI interactions. So again, question and answer interactions of learners experiencing content and how that's represented as xAPI. So if you follow the basic guidance in the xAPI spec and a few additional rules, which I'm going to cover in these sessions, you'll get really nice reports and analytics and test item analyses and great graphs, and all of it will work automatically. If you decide in your own encoding, you're going to have to build a lot of custom stuff to make it work. So if you can follow the xAPI spec and a few additional rules, you'll be better off for it in the long run. So today we're covering a few basics. So what verb? So when you're tracking data about a learner, and specifically how they answered a true and false question, what verb do you use? Are they answering something? Are they responding? Are they doing something else? Well, this is not specified in the spec itself. Typically what we prefer and typically what we see are either the responded or the answered verb. And controversial opinion, and I've thought I'm going to do this in another video at some point, but it doesn't really matter. Responded, answered, or some other verb. It's nice if you keep them responded or answered. It makes it nice and clean, at least if you're consistent. But the verb is less important here than some other aspects, and we'll get into that in a bit. So I said answered and responded, but here's what I really mean. These are the IRIs that you use for those verbs. I have kind of seen some other duplicative verbs with different IRIs, but these are the ones that I'm actually referring to. So I said, verb might not be the most important thing. Something that is really important is the activity type. And here I say use CMI interaction. And again, like before, as an oversimplification, it's actually this big long IRI. And some of you who are kind of new to xAPI or even doing xAPI for a while that aren't familiar with activity types. It's a very important concept, and again, I think I'm going to do another video just on types, but for now, let's just talk about the interaction activity type. So again, unlike verbs, this is a bit more important, and that is because we can use that type to know what kind of report or what kind of graph to report. So we know if it is a question, for example, to render a test item analysis dashboard. Where it's harder, if the user responded, well, we know less about that. They can respond to different things. So, maybe they're responding to a prompt from Alexa and not, answering a true-false question. So the verb is a less accurate way for us to determine what graphs to show. So yeah, a little bit more about activity type. So, you have the I did this. The this part of that is the object. It is often an activity. So like a lesson or a course or an assessment or a question on an assessment. Part of that activity is the definition. That can have things like the name, description, and also something called type is what we have here. The value of this type is an IRI, and again, it's the thing that we kind of showed you on the previous slide is what we want the value to be. For questions on an assessment, true, false, multiple choice, fill in, performance, sequencing, matching, etc. You set your definition type equal to that IRI, and then our system will kind of know what you're tracking, what it is, and be able to render you more useful information about it. So I think the last thing we'll cover here today is just like an example of what this looks like. This is not a whole xAPI statement, but it's some parts of an xAPI statement, specifically an object. Here the object is an activity, and let's just walk through these each line here pretty quickly. So the first thing is the ID. What is the thing that we're talking about? Well, the ID of the thing that we are talking about here is xAPI : / my exam question. It is just a unique identifier, in this case, for a CMI interaction, for a question that is on an exam or, a quiz or something. Next, we have this kind of sub-object definition. So object definition has other elements underneath it. We'll go through each one of those at a time. So in definition, we have name. What's the name of this thing? Well, it's the final exam activity type question. I don't know. It's a name for your question, so you can have your own convention on how you name your questions, but this is a short name to describe the question. Next thing is the description. So the description, you'll see, has the question text. What type do you use for interactions? We'll render this as like what was displayed to the user on the screen, so the description is a good place to put that. And then I've also highlighted type here. And the type is the thing that, I mentioned before is pretty important. So object definition type is equal to this string. And this will tell us that any other data that's down here or up here in the statement that we don't have listed here, it's about a CMI interaction. It's about a question on an exam. And because we know the type that is being tracked, we're able to do extra stuff in the LRS, the reporting platform, and the analytics platform to make it more useful. So I think we're going to wrap it there. Again, this is going to be the first in a series. I'll put some links in the description to additional information on CMI interactions. If you are interested in how to encode and get value out of your quizzes and assessments, or really, inline knowledge checks, pre-tests, post-tests, you name it, anything that has questions on it, the next few videos are going to be good for you, because we'll talk about not only how to track the data, but how to make use of it later. All right, so we're going to go ahead and call it for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the subscribe and or that thumbs up button. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.